each individual location should feel like the best neighborhood gym ever, and you've got your people there and they are looking after you, and the director is the key to the entire thing.
Yeah, it's just building friendship. It's having that back and forth. It's not just all like, what are you doing? Oh, I'll write this down. Oh, next person. Like, just take the time, build a relationship with people, and just be a good person.
Cian, what's up?
What's going on, man?
First time on the podcast.
It is. First episode. I'm a little nervous, but I've been prepped by the team.
You know it's not live, right?
No.
Yeah, everything can be edited, which is good. You can screw this up so bad you have no idea. We can totally start over if you want.
No, I'm good. I'm all natural.
All right, like before we tell folks who you are and your background, did you bring a dad joke? Are you ready or not?
I do.
All right, what do you got?
Prepped for that. So, what are the 2 strongest days out of the week?
I don't know.
Saturday and Sunday.
Why?
Every other day are weekdays.
Such a gym bro
terrible,
dad
I
joke.
know.
So WEAK weekdays?
Play on words.
I got it.
Play on words.
I got it. So you ready for mine? This is bad. I already read it to you. This is so bad. So I offered my elderly neighbor $20 to try out her new stair lift. I think she's going to take me up on it. Yeah, yes, I love it. All right, my friend. Well, look, for those of you guys that haven't met Cian, and I know he hasn't been on the podcast, so you probably haven't. He keeps a low profile for the most part. But he is the director of training in our corporate club, which has been around since 1992. So it's a lot of responsibility, I would say, to be the guy that's working at the flagship club. And I wanted to have you on today. Just a lot of our franchisees, or maybe even people in the industry, they always wonder, like, what does the director really do? Like, what are the key roles? And you've done a really good job. And so I think you just share your ideas on what those things are. And we simplified this for you guys by just saying, what are the top 3 things a director needs to do, right?
Yeah.
So I'll say the thing, and then we'll just talk about what the activity is. So remember, in this case, the director, really, the layman's term would be like the manager, right? I just don't like the name manager as much. Like, to the consumer, I like director of training, because if you're going into a personal training place, you want to see like the head trainer kind of, right? Or like the
main guy.
Yeah, the main guy who can really help me with my goals. That's the consumer facing term. But for the sake of this podcast, maybe it's just you're the manager. I mean, you're responsible for all the metrics in the business, essentially, right?
Absolutely.
And so first and foremost, tell us a little bit about your background. I think it's interesting. And I want you guys to hear this before we start. So I know I'm talking all over you right now, but like, Cian has a very technical background. So you'll hear about his educational background. That's a common question we get. Do you need Cian's educational background to be good at this? The answer is no. We just got lucky, and he was in our local market working at a place right down the street that he'll share, or like his experiences. But we were lucky to find him. But you don't have to have. So when he rattles off all of his credentials, it's amazing. You don't have to hire somebody that. I just want to preface it with that. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. It's good.
What's your background?
So my background, I've a bachelor's degree, exercise science and coaching from Dublin in Ireland, where I'm from.
I thought you were Welsh.
No, I'm not Welsh. Yeah. Remember now, we've been through this.
You're like, I will punch you in the face.
Pocket's done.
That's right.
No, I came from Ireland originally, and then flew over, met a girl, now married. Long story short, 6 months old baby. Common story. Yeah.
Met a girl. Yeah.
We've got a whole little plethora of pets now and a baby daughter, so it's great.
It's awesome.
But I have my bachelor's degree and then wanted something better for myself. So I came over to America and got a great internship with Georgia Tech as a strength and conditioning coach. So I was there for about a year and a few months there as their kind of the head intern, I would say. And did that for that amount of time. Learned a huge amount of strength and conditioning in America and how it is to train athletes over here. And then from there, went into my master's degree in applied exercise science and a focus on, physiology, biomechanics, all the fun stuff in Kennesaw State. So I do hold that education in the background and towards the research end of things, and really, really enjoyed that particular avenue of sports and training. So when I came out of college, I wanted to see what can I do? So like I said, I went to a kind of like a sports science gym franchise that was in the air that just opened location, and became the head trainer there and the director there, and ran that for 2 years while, COVID started. So it was an uphill battle. So there's me learning about business and, running a business when not having that experience and not really the full backing and understanding of that. But the training had it down. But the business side, had to learn. So had an uphill battle. And then, we had spoken after that time where I was like, I need something new. I've been working like a dog. I really don't see a longevity in this industry. So and that's when we kind of started talking and came through here and ran the corporate gym and been here since, coming up on 2 years now. So
yeah, and I mean it's interesting because I think a lot of folks that are younger that have that background in exercise science, they do tend to like, I want to work with athletes, but I think it's probably important for them to know the economics behind being a strength coach. Unless you land at like University of Alabama or University of Georgia and you're working mainly in football, right, which is the big money producer, you're not going to make much money.
It's challenging,
Yeah, I mean, even you with all your responsibilities in the other place, you've more than doubled your income by coming to Alloy, which is awesome. And you have to earn it, of course, because we do a profit share with you. So I look at you as an operating partner, really, right? But there's, to your point, like the science and the workout stuff is one thing. I would say in our franchise, it's almost the easier thing because we control it all.
Yeah.
The harder part's the business side, right?
It is.
And you've done a great job. And that was one of the things. But when you came to us, you had sort of a beginner's mentality, even though you weren't a beginner. And you were like, listen, I want to learn business as well. And because it's a different skill set, right? It's like a whole nother muscle that you have to work on. And you've done really well with that. In that, so there are business functions certainly that the manager has to do. You have to know the exercise part because you have to like convince people and make an exercise prescription. You look the part, all the things. But in the business functions of the director, the first one that we listed was sales. So through your lens, what does that really mean? Like, what do you do for sales?
So sales really encapsulates how I bring clients into the gym and how I keep them on and how I can find different avenues while being savvy with budgeting as well, kind of going the right way about it. So social media, campaigns, leads come in. You've got to be active on that. You've got to be able to know how to hold a conversation, open-end conversation, pull those conversations where, okay, am I getting the emotional response of this person, like why they're looking for a gym? And then can we help them? Are we a good fit? We want to make sure we are a good fit for them. Can I actually help them in the scenario that we have? So constantly on that, that's a constant turnover.
So that's just lead follow-up from digital leads.
Just digital,
and in our brand, like we're not really working in Google digital right now because it's too expensive and the lead flow is too low.
Yeah.
So we're mainly in Meta, and in that we're mainly in Facebook, and that's where our customer avatar is. And we always tell people like, look, if you close 10% of your digital leads, you're doing really well. And I think, I would love to hear your take on this. I think it's a different animal when you're used to selling to people in face-to-face. It's really easy to sell. Like when they come in for a starting point, like your closing rate's almost 100%, right? Because you're a good guy and you know your science and you run the process, right? But I think when you're doing phone sales or following up with digital leads, getting a no 9 out of 10 times can be really disheartening, right? I don't know if you experienced that
Absolutely.
at all.
No, absolutely. Because you're calling people that may remembered that they filled out the form, may have never heard of you guys before. You get some pretty funny responses from phone calls. I mean, I've had some serious threats, but at the same time, I'm just following up.
My favorite ever for me was I'm going to call the FBI. I'm like, you filled out a Facebook form lead. They're like, no, I didn't. I'm like, it was at 3 a.m. I think you might have been drinking, but that's okay. But we're not going to bring in the FBI. I'm just going to put you on my never call back again list. And that's going to do it. We no need to involve the federal authorities.
We're good. Clearly you're not
Relax.
interested.
Clearly you're not for me.
Take that as a no.
Right.
But no, I mean, we've had those. But again, you're calling people, you're cold calling per se. Now you do have some kind of lead in. They fill in their information and they're like, oh yeah, I kind of heard about you, but I don't know what's going on. And that's your opening. That's your pitch.
Right.
So running the play on that, getting used to being comfortable with it. The one issue I probably had at the start when I was like, okay, I can do this, I just rambled. I just regurgitated all my knowledge. And you'd listen back to the phone calls and it was me talking, like who am I trying to talk to? Am I talking to myself or am I trying to introduce myself? So that was a big learning curve at the beginning. But once I understand that and kind of whittle down my conversation to being open-ended to finding out what's going on with them.
There's an old adage in sales that whoever's talking is losing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about asking the right questions and listening.
Oh, yeah. Matt said that multiple times to me at the beginning.
It's like, hard though, right?
It is.
Because you're excited.
I know. I'm like, hey, what's going on? They're like, who's this Irish guy on my phone at 2 p.m? Like, what's going on? So it's always interesting.
But you're not a Nigerian prince that just needs some money to get out of prison.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm an Irish fella who wants to train you. So, the script's changed a little bit.
Similar.
Yeah, it's definitely different. But no, so that's part of the process, social media leads and stuff like that. But it's not really the full end. Like, it's not all of our eggs are in our basket. So we do cross promotions with different businesses, which really helps in terms of getting our name out in the community. We've worked with spas, we've worked with Country Club of Roswell here.
And that's you getting out and introducing yourself to people. And so I would say in this position, you have to have that disposition where you're willing to get out and have those conversations.
Tough conversations.
We have that, we have best work data, so we have a screen.
Yep.
And I would, anybody that's not in Alloy, look into it. But if you're with Alloy and you don't use it, do it at your own peril. Because if I gave this to Cian, it would say he can definitely motivate people with enthusiasm. He can, he can sell fitness memberships. I mean, it's very specific to Alloy. And so if somebody can't do it, think about the likelihood of them succeeding if they are forced to get out in the community, go talk to another business, right? It's going to be tough.
It's tough.
So make sure they're the right person, first of all. Anyway, I just figured I'd work
No, it's good because that's like you think you've got to go to these places, introduce yourself, tell them what you're about. And some businesses don't want anything to do with you, and you've got to be able to okay, that's personal in-person rejection that sometimes you've got to be okay with. And then just picking yourself back up and going to the next place. So having that personality of just being bubbly in a scenario, listen, this is all I'm doing. Just want to introduce myself, see if we're a good match, see if my people can help your people, what we can do together. So we've done that with a couple of locations and some that are recurring. Like I said, the Country Club of Roswell have been great for us. A lot of referrals to and from. We've worked with meal prepping companies, stuff like that. So there's always new things that are popping up. we're doing a 5K here on Saturday with a bunch of Alloys in the location. And
we're all sponsoring, right?
We're all sponsoring the location. So we're going to be there. We've got, I would say blackmailing some of our clients to get in on the 5K. I'm like, hey, you can
walk it, right?
Yeah, you can walk it. You can use a stroller. Yeah. So we've got a good amount of signups, and that kind of getting ourselves out in the community and getting a name for ourselves is important too.
Right.
And then
when I hear all that, I'm like, all right, what kind of person can stand out at an event like that and talk to people freely? And you have to be passionate, but you just have to be extroverted.
Yep.
Right. Like you always joke about having the gift of gab, but you do. You're the guy, if I met you, I'd be like, oh, I'd like to have a beer with this guy. He's just a cool guy, right? Yeah. That's the kind of person that you want in your seat, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's just, like you said, it's important to build that relationship, build that rapport. I know we're talking about sales now, but I'll talk about some of the clients that we have. That rapport that I have, they know as much about me as I do about them. So it's important to build that relationship, and especially with new businesses or new partners that you're going into. And that's the way I look at it. And then last, like I said, referrals. Referrals, really important.
And then you're just asking, I think the key there, what I've always seen, and tell me what your thoughts are now that you're doing it on the regular, just asking is the thing you have to remember. What do you think?
It's the smallest conversation.
Give me an example if you can.
So we have a client who, it was coming up on Valentine's Day. And I'm like, hey, does your husband work out? And she's like, oh yeah, he loves it. He used to do CrossFit, all these different crazy things, and he doesn't really do much now. I'm like, hey, invite him to the workout. Let's see what's going on. Brought him in for the workout, and now he's a client of ours as well. He loved it.
And all you had to do was ask.
Just asked. Like, hey, just bring him in, see if he likes it.
For anybody that's hearing you that has some kind of head trash around, they feel like if they're asking, they're being, and I'm air quoting if you're not watching this on YouTube, too salesy, right? Did you ever have that feeling? And if so, maybe not. But if you did, how would you overcome it? And what would you say to that person who's got the head trash that says, I'm being too salesy if I'm asking for referrals?
If you're too salesy?
No, they feel they're being too salesy just by asking.
I wouldn't say that it's too salesy per se. It's just a level of care and interest in their life. If you genuinely care about that person beside you or who's working out in the group, and you want to know what's going on about them, what their husband did, what their wife does, whatever happens, then it's just a natural occurrence. Being like, oh, you guys seem to get along together. Would you like to work out together? Would you like to work out at separate times? Do they do anything? We've had people call the gym and they're like, hey, my friend does this. She's been telling me forever to get on this, but I've never really built up the courage. But can I come in and check you guys out? And I'm like, that's awesome. I didn't even need to do a referral, but just being kind and being generous and just being a good person to that person. They've said hey, I trust Cian. You'd be great with him. Go and check him out. Here's his number. Right. So it's, selling without even selling.
Right.
Just being a genuine person.
That parlays perfectly into the next role. So first it's sales, because you can't help people unless you can sell them. And sales is a dirty word to some people, but I don't think so. All you're trying to do is solve problems. You're problem solving for people. They reach out to you because they have a problem. You are the solution to the problem. So just think of it that way. And like, heaven forbid you, air quoting, sell them into something that changes their life for the positive. I mean, come on, right? Like, you got to get rid of that head trash if you have it. Tough sale, yeah. Oh, that's terrible. The next one, though, is we call it retention, because like sales is a KPI for us and retention is a KPI, but retention is all about client care. So, I mean, again, this director has to be able to sell. So they have to be able to leave the yard, I would say, and go hunt. But they also have to be a gardener. So if it comes over the fence, you're going to like plant it and take care of it, right? So talk about some examples of things that you do, because by the way, our retention at corporate is at 97%. So that is far and away the best in the industry. Even in our brand, it's the best. So I would argue that you're the best at doing it. So just throw out some examples for people where they understand, like, what is it that you're really doing to take care of your flock?
No, I mean, that's a number we're really proud of as well. And it goes for myself, but also the team we have too. You know, it's not just the director role, it's the rest of the team that's important to this factor. But I guess in my role, I do have that allowance to do these extra things. So for example, we have 2 teachers, and during the summer, it was great. They were consistent, active. They were doing different times. They were enjoying it. It was great. School started was rough for them. I could see that they weren't as consistent. They weren't as motivated. They were exhausted in the sessions. And I could, that's a natural thing. Life gets in the way.
Yes.
So one thing that we did is, I wanted to really kind of nail the button of what's going on and how they were at mentally. So I picked them up lunch at Cava, and I went to the school. I made sure it was cleared, everything. I went in. We had lunch together in one of the classrooms. I met their faculty, just talked a little bit. It was myself. I was like myself in a classroom with a bunch of teachers, chit-chatting. And that meant a lot to them. And it meant a lot that they knew, okay, Cian's working. He's getting up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym or anything like that, or to run the gym. But he takes time out of his day to come have lunch with us because he cares. And that's something that I didn't think about a retention per se. Like, I didn't think, I need to do this. It was just a natural thing for me. Like, let's go have lunch. Let's talk about it when you have a downtime. Let's see what's the root of the cause. So that's, one scenario. Another scenario, the top of my head, was Denise and Alfonso. They're great people. Clients of ours that, it was last spring, I believe, they were mulching their yard, right? And they, in the general area here, and the HOAs around here, you live near here, HOAs are interesting.
They're difficult,
They're difficult, you got to be on point to get your mulch in by a certain date and stuff like that. So their car only could fit 8 or 10 bags of mulch at a time. So they were going to Home Depot, taking a couple of trips nonstop. And one of the biggest things that I purchased when I first came here was, my big truck, which
I love it.
Love my big truck, right?
It's pretty badass, I have to say.
It's great, yeah. I have don't know why an Irishman's driving one over here, because I can't drive it in Ireland.
Because you can. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
It's freaking awesome.
I love that thing. So I just said to him, listen, Saturday, I'll come back down. Like, we'll meet at Home Depot. Let's get what you need. Let's get it taken care of. So we filled up the trailer. Or the bed of the truck, went to the house, laid it all out. Well, it was a 2-hour job, could have been a couple of days job, and had a great coffee. He makes a mean Venezuelan coffee. So it was lovely. And, that spoke a lot to building our relationship and learning more about them, and them opening up a little bit about their experiences and their family, what's going on. So that meant a lot to me even more as well.
You're right.
And, smaller things like, meeting people for a walk. Like Lewis is one of our older clients. He constantly walks around the area. I've called him. I'm like, hey, you're doing your extra steps. Like, I can see you. I went on a walk with him, and we went to the Newtown Park here and walked around for a little bit, talked about his life, talked about what's going on, the importance of staying healthy and really engaging. And those small conversations, whether it's a coffee date or a lunch date or something like that, just goes a long way. Now, there's a couple of hundred other clients that we could do that with, but, we want to make sure that I'm touching everyone at the same time. So it's important, just when you have that opportunity, if it's the first thought, like, I should do that, jump on it, because it'll build that relationship with your current clients.
Yeah. And I mean, look, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the hard systems like frequent sweaters and surprisingly personable campaigns and all the things that we have that are systems for soft touch stuff. But the things that you're talking about, they aren't necessarily like tasks that it's almost like you put on a set of lenses going into the business that says, these are my 130 people. I've heard you say this exactly. Yeah. I'm going to hire coaches to help me train my clients. Mm-hmm. But you saying that, I know what you mean. It's like, these are people that you're going to put your arms around and get to know them and bring them almost into this family, if you will, right? And when you hear those little examples, it's like, that's what it means. But there's a million opportunities for that, to your point, but only if you're wearing the right set of lenses. If your relationship with these individuals is strictly transactional about what their memberships are and blah, 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 and you don't care about them as individuals, you're not going to get to 97% retention, right? No, you have to have a true interest in others, right? And really care about these individuals on that level. And then if you just have those lenses on, there's a million opportunities. You just named a few, and I'm sure there's a million more, right? That's why I love the model. There's only 130 people in there. You can get to know people at that level. If you had a boot camp business that had a 700, 800, 900 people you needed to make the model work from a business standpoint, you could never do that.
That'd be hard. That'd be really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So love it, man. Love it. All right. So client care, sales first, because you got to sell them. Then you got to take care of the flock and get a retention. And then part of that, and you mentioned that already, like business is a team sport.
Yeah.
And so you give props to the team already. So the third thing is leadership. And there's only a few people in this model. The director trains 10 to 15 hours a week, which is what Cian does. And he rotates his shift to touch a bunch of different kinds of clients. But he's mainly employing 1 to 2, 2 to 3, maybe just depending on how part-time people are, to cover the rest of those hours. So speak to some of the mechanisms or the things that you do from a leadership standpoint to make sure the customer experience is consistently good every time people come in.
Yeah, I mean, I think finding the right person is obviously very important.
Best work data can help with that as well.
Best work data is what we do with that. I would say my experiences with having different teams of trainers before in the past, whether it's in small jobs I've had here and there, or like the big exercise science facility I worked at, it's very important to have those like-minded people that get on the same wavelength, The team that we have currently at Hainesbridge is phenomenal. I've got 2 girls and a guy. We've got a great kind of rapport. We do our team meetings, which is really important. So
once a week.
Once a week. We do it on Wednesday, level 10 meeting. It's a great breakdown of what's going on in the gym. So
what kind of things are you guys discussing in the meetings? Just so, because I think people listening would be like, okay, what are these meetings about?
Yeah. So we always start it straight off the bat with clients that are succeeding and clients that are struggling. Like, who's succeeding this past week that you've noticed that maybe I haven't seen individually? Like, hey, that's been fantastic. Like, has John got up in weight, or has Paul done a better technique or something like that? Small little snippets. And I always ask them, like, hey, give me someone who's succeeding, who's struggling. So that's really important, because then it gets them in the mind ticking like, ooh, I've got to think about the clients that they're seeing. What's going on
some
with
ownership
them.
of the people they see regularly.
Yeah. And, we've gotten to a point where it's so smooth where straight away they're like, you know what, you need to talk to this person about this.
So they're telling you, hey, reach out to this person because in our sessions they're a little off, or I'm hearing some things that are making them shaky.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely. Because, one thing that, I bring into the gym is in terms of energy, and, I'll say demand the space, but I'm a loud voice in there, and I'd start pulling people away and chit-chatting and stuff. Sometimes they might have a rapport, or they might open up to another trainer that I'm not sure of and aware of, and I may not see it because they may not see like, okay, I need to talk to her about this. I can't talk to him because he's talking to that person right now. Yeah.
Right.
So I might miss things. So that's why it's important to have these conversations. And our team right now are so good at messaging me about that. They'll Slack me about it after their sessions. They'll be like, hey, this happened. You should probably mention it to them. So small things like that. And they've even, like Maddie and Skylar in particular, they've dog sat for some of our current clients. Like they're just on the weekend, like they're going away. What are you doing with Cinnamon? Like stuff like that. Like that level of care extends as well.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then in the rest of the meeting, we go over obviously what's happening in the gym, any promotions that are happening right now, any kind of secret shoppers that we've done in the past. We just did a recent one as well. We go through everything in the system, and that's in guides. Like you can use that as any director. Go through secret shop your trainers so you know what's going on. They're doing the same services.
Can I ask you about that a little bit? So what Cian's referring to is we have the 7 core tenets of a great session, just things that are supposed to happen in every session. And as our alloy or franchisees should do, and what Cian does is you can shop your trainers, and you can do it. And I think when you say that, it sounds a little bit hostile, but I like the way that you do it, because basically it tells the customer, because you're asking them, you're telling them it's anonymous, and the customer then gets to see what we're trying to accomplish when they're in there, because I think they might even know how much we're trying to put into them. And so when they see that, they're like, wow, these things are supposed to be like, they're paying this much attention to what happens in my session. So it's good for the customer. They feel like they're part of the process, right?
Yeah.
But what do you, like, let's say you get these reviews back. What do you do with that info? How do you present that to the trainers? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So it's always an area of, building their confidence in one way and be like, listen, I need to bring something to your attention. are we doing this regularly? Is this across the board, or is this like an anomaly? Is this a certain individual that we need to just play like, hey, what happened here? Or is this a certain scenario? If it's a consistent flag that's happening across the board, then again, we would do it as a group. Like, listen, we need to be mentioning, why are we doing these exercises? Like, how is this going to benefit us in the day-to-day? Stuff like that. Right. Now, if it's an individual thing with one trainer, I would say to them, like, listen, I want you to role play me through this scenario. What would you do? So I would see how they would do it. I'm like, that's great. Let's see if we can change it in this phase where this gets more of an effect. So it's really about being able to manage a leadership role where I'm not very an authoritative leader. Like, I'm not very like, hey, don't do that. Like, I'm more of a like, what can we do to fix it? Yeah. So it's a great way of building that, again, rapport with your team, keeping that professional as well, and just looking out for the best interest in the client at the end of the day. Right. So if I know that they've taken care of all those boxes throughout their sessions, like, okay, I'm comfortable. I don't have to be there for that session. Can I go over here and do something else with my time? Right. So, we've got trainers we've had for quite some time. We've built this really good cycle, and you've mentioned it all the time. There's going to be turnover of trainers. So it's important to keep that flow and keep that energy with the next group coming through or anything like that.
And the weekly meetings are obviously
exactly.
Part of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And I think it's the right way to approach it because, like, there's a guy that basically built out the whole customer service experience at the Ritz-Carlton. And I love what he said because, he's talking to, like, staff that's, like, cleaning rooms and stuff, right? So they're not necessarily, like, customer-facing even. But he would enter the room and start training by, we are a group of ladies and gentlemen servicing a group of ladies and gentlemen, right? So it's like if you treat your employees like they're part of the process, right? Giving them feedback and saying, hey, across the board, we're killing it here. An area that we could get better would be explaining the movements to the clients through their lens. So if you know what their goals are, it's sort of like, hey, kettlebell swings. If somebody is trying to hit a golf ball further, it's good for explosive hip strength. Yeah. If they want to build a bigger butt, or whatever, like they talked about, you can almost relate most of the exercises back to a specific goal that they have. And then it helps to connect the client to the thing that they're doing. Like, and also they were like, wow, they remembered me, right? Yeah. Super cool. So I love it. Okay. So weekly meetings, obviously bringing the right people. Weekly meetings. Anything else do you do, like team outings, or I'm not sure what the heck we're doing over there, but you're doing a good job. So why don't you share?
Well, we should do more actually. The team outings, building the rapport. We've got a good team atmosphere over there. Obviously, they're some of the part timers are doing other jobs as well. Everyone's very busy. Like again, if we don't do those team outings, like we did an event just for Christmas, we had a whole Christmas party at a local brewery here. It was phenomenal. I grew a great mustache. Everyone says it was terrible, but had some beautiful green glitter and red glitter. Don't buy the glitter glue from Walmart. It's not safe to put on your skin. It was so.
Ask me how I know.
Ask me how I know. Yeah. Oh, I had to take a second. Yeah. It peeled off like it was a fake mustache at the end of the night. Yeah. So it grew back. Right,
that's good.
But like we had a whole social, and the clients showed up. We had like
coaches
snacks
there.
Of that. The coaches showed up. It was a good time. We had a fancy dress costume party, like with some prizes given out. Like it was a fun time. So the next one's going to be the 5K on Saturday. We've got the trainers running it. I'll be at the end handing out the medals. So see, if I had to run, I'd have to win it, and that's not fair. You don't want that. So
you don't want to smash everybody. Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. So, thank you for being so gracious.
Humble.
Yeah, humble. That's what he is. The humble Irishman.
But no, like that's going to be a great event for everyone to come. Bring their friends, bring their family, meet everyone. Like, oh, this is Coach Cian, like you've heard about him, and it's funny. Some of the lads that we have here, and they'll tell their wives about me, and I've met them at the Christmas party. Like, oh, you're the crazy one who comes back. He's got all these stories, and I'm like, oh, so yeah, I'm him. Yeah, that's me. Nice to meet you. Like I thought you'd be a lot older with all the experience you have. I'm like, oh, thanks. I think. I
guess.
Yeah.
But you know what, dude? Like at the end of the day, all I hear is like you've built a really good community. That's why we have 97% retention, right? And you think about like how that plays out, because you mentioned earlier, which I think is really key. It's like, listen, I'm relying on you like as an operating partner. So, and we do a profit share with you. So you're quite literally an operating partner. Mm-hmm. And so for you to understand that, like, if I can drive 97% retention, that means less marketing spend on marketing. Cause you said, hey, watching the budget, right? Yeah. But if you kick ass at taking care of people, that's less spent on marketing. That's more profit share for you, right? Exactly. So it's like more money in your pocket, but also it's just the way it should be. Like the model is based on fewer people, paying more money, and a high level of care. And so you exemplify that. So again, we talked about it through the lens of you guys of sales, retention, and leadership of the team. I think those are the three major roles. Anything else you want to add?
A little bit crazy helps. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
A little crazy.
Touch of craziness in there.
Well, that's our core value. Humor with a touch of crazy.
Exactly.
And that's why it's there. Like that's who we are. Like if you walk into our facility, we've got these wall graphics, and clients have literally printed large pictures of Cian's face and put them on the different characters in the gym just as a joke.
And my daughter's in my arm up above as well.
So the graphics are now like changed to like Cian with a different face, or his face on a different body, holding up his beautiful daughter in the back. But that's what it's all about, right? Is building, like, each individual location should feel like the best neighborhood gym ever, and you've got your people there, and they are looking after you. And the director is the key to the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I would add, like I've mentioned it briefly before, is like I know as much about them as they do about me, and that's something that I've done with athletes in the past as well, and any clients that I've had is. If I can break down my barriers and my walls and to build that relationship, like they know what happened with my whole life that's happened, you know, my story, how I got here, what's going on, what my dogs have done on the weekend, stuff like that. Like I tell them all the stories and they'll open up. And again, it's just building friendship. It's having that back and forth. It's not just all like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, I'll write this down. Oh, next person. Like just take the time, build a relationship with people, and just be a good person at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. If you listen to this podcast and you thought the director, you know, if you were like maybe in the fitness space, you might be thinking like, you're going to be like, well, I do the FMS and I'm like assessing the numbers, and like, that's almost a given, right? Like there's a term called table stakes, and that would be like a poker term where like, just to play the game, what are the table stakes to ante up, right? To get in the game. Knowing good workouts and the basic science, which we control corporately anyway, that's just table stakes. The stuff that's really going to move the needle and kill your business help you kill it in your business is what Cian's talking about. It's all the soft touch stuff. So that's why he talks mostly about that, because the workout stuff is just a given, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you heard it was light on science and all that, that's because there's already process there. Granted, he's a really smart guy and he's got his exercise science master's degree and all this athletic training background. But when you heard him, talk today, you guys, it wasn't about any of that. Like, because none of that matters to the customer. Taking a walk in the park, bringing someone lunch, having a heartfelt conversation, being vulnerable and open to them so that they'll do the same with you. That's what's going to drive this model ultimately. The science is a science, and it's almost, you know, it's math in a lot of ways. Yeah. The other thing is relations, and that's the most important thing. So, I mean, you're killing it. I don't know what else to say, really. I'm really glad you came on, because I love it when you speak to people about it, because it's exactly what we're telling them. Sometimes it lands different from someone who's sitting in that seat. So I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Anything else to add?
No, that's everything.
You know I'm Irish, right? There's a whole county.
Don't start here.
Listen. There's a whole county in Ireland called County Mayo.
That was there before you.
What do you mean?
That doesn't mean that that's your county. It's not. It's not.
Listen,
he's not Irish.
I'm so Irish. Like, look at me. First of all, I'm tan like wallpaper, and there's a whole county in Ireland named after me, and I'm really looking forward to going over there and buying a jersey from the Gaelic football team, and it just says on it Mayo, and it's going to have my number. I'm going to get number 1, of course.
Okay,
right. But if I ever go to Dublin, which it's on my radar, because I want to go to the Isle of Man, which is the TT motorcycle race. Yeah, it's nuts, right? But I want to go to Ireland first and then wrap it up with a couple of days at Isle of Man. I'm definitely going to hit you up for things to do and hopefully some family members to meet. And
you be careful what you wish for.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not a heavy drinker, so I'm going to have to train my liver to get ready for Ireland for sure.
Well, you'll be fine. Don't worry. No one knows you there. You'll be all right.
Famous last words. All right, brother. Appreciate you being on.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace, guys.